But I need the money. Trying to buy a new robe. Anyways, yeah, this job can be depressing. It's always dark and hot, and the dog isn't even that nice, which is a bummer because I really like dogs. I guess it just depends on the day, because sometimes Cerberus is in a really good mood and he'll fetch my oar when I throw it into the river for him to catch. Oh, and he's a real great cuddler too, and oh yeah. Like I was saying, this job can be tasking, but it's not every day where I'm so easily entertained. The guy before you? Oh, let's see, what was his name? Oscar. Octavius. Orpheus. Yeah, Orpheus. Let me tell you, let's start off with the fact that he wasn't even dead, which is no big deal. I get a few of those here and there. But like I said, I need the money. So I'm about to tell this guy, get off my boat, until he starts to sing me a song. Yeah, a song. You know, at first I wasn't really feeling it. You know, music isn't gonna buy me a new robe. But he was actually kind of good. And it's not every day I get performed to in the underworld, so I was flattered to say the least. Oh, but if Hades asks, I tried to kick that guy out, okay? So, he's performing his tune, and I'm standing there like, should I stand? Should I sit? Is this guy gonna give me my gold coin? Anyways, before I know it, I'm swaying on my boat, feeling the music, letting this guy perform his song to me. I even think I saw a few souls rising to listen. Anyways, so I'm feeling the music. Music, you know, it's been centuries since I've heard a good tune. You know, the last time right, Orpheus. So, I'm feeling the music until it stops. At this point, I'm kind of feeling the pressure a little bit. I need all the money I can get right now, and Hades is very particular about who can get into the underworld and who can't. So, without thinking, I make a quick decision. Get in, I say. Crazy! I know, but this guy played me a whole song. How could I not? If Hades asks, it wasn't me, I tell him. So, he grabs his stuff, jumps on the boat, and we take off. You know, usually, I like to ride in silence. But this guy just starts going off about his wife and how she just died and how much he loves her and how he wants to get her back. I feel for the kid, I really do. Hades isn't a bad guy, I tell him. If you play your cards right, you might get her back, I say. Then I get real low, close enough to his face I could plant a smoot. I look around and say, but the real moneymaker in this place is Persephone. You swoon her. You can swoon anybody. man, Hades is gonna kill me if he hears that one. And I don't want to get this kid's hopes up. He seems like a real nice fellow. So we're talking about that for a little bit. We get to his stuff. He grabs his things, strums a little tune for me, and he is on his way. You know, I really do hope everything turned out okay for that kid. Anyways, this is your stuff. It was nice talking to you.
You want to know what hell is like? Gusty. And sad. Unfair. And eternal. Stay for a moment. Listen, I'll tell you everything. I don't even know why I married him. My hot-headed husband with his crooked nose. My mother liked his steady job. My father's hunting club membership. My husband narrowed his eyes as I tried to liven up our gatherings. My red silk dress cut low. But why shouldn't I have watched to see who was watching? The day I met his brother. Home at last. Leaning against the kitchen counter with a glass of apple juice. All I could see was his straight Roman nose. Later, it was the muscled arms, clear voice, the eyes that rippled like the dark surface of a pool. When he dropped by and found me reading alone on the living room sofa, I showed him the book, Thomas Mallory. And yes, he scooped up my legs and slid beside me, but rather than cradle my feet, he grabbed this velvet pillow his mother had given us and ran his hands over it instead. Outside, the Labrador was barking in the first thunders of a summer storm. Pretending I couldn't concentrate, I nudged the book into his hands. He started with Lancelot. Stumbled over Guinevere. And kissed me. Never have I felt so tremulous. I ask you, what would have happened had the dog fallen silent and we'd heard my husband's boots crunching up the drive, or glimpsed him through the window pane, caressing the hatchet's wooden handle like a lover? What if the wind had been calm and the trees at peace, instead of raising their limbs about the house, as if summoning this storm that will never, ever end?
When Athena cursed me, she really thought she did something. Admittedly, my rendezvous with Poseidon was not my finest hour. But it's not my fault that I was ravished by Poseidon in Athena's temple, and well, she did this to me. She said I defiled her temple, broke my vow of chastity, said I was getting exactly what I deserved. So she cursed me to a life of misery. But I mean, what about Poseidon? He was there too, defiling. Nothing happens to him, though? Okay, Athena, I see where the loyalties lie. She doesn't even realize she actually did me a favor. Beautiful, charming, captivating. These were all words that used to describe me. My face used to be one that would make the world stop spinning, and now I look scary. Mind you, I didn't feel like this initially. I couldn't stand the sight of my own face, and this broke me. I couldn't see a reason to live anymore, especially without the possibility of love and beauty being in my life, after it was so present and reachable. I couldn't see a life with me in it anymore as a hideous beast. I ran away to hide from the disgust I felt, like the hag that I was. I found a cavern and hid away there to be with my sorrow and to hopefully waste away in solitude. But I discovered my ability to turn living things into stone. As animals wandered into my new home, curious and unsuspecting that they would be turned into stone in the garden upon looking into my eyes. I had acquired quite a lot of statues, and soon it would appear that trespassers would join the collection as more started to wander. My eyes used to draw in men from all over as I held them in my gaze. Now, my eyes make them freeze with fear, and they are held prisoner where they stand. My once bouncy ringlets hiss around me as snakes worm their way around my face and ears, exploring their new home. My face, once light with beauty carved from perfect clay, now darkens with a green hue. I really don't look that bad if I'm being honest, but could she have chosen any other color than green? It never really suited me, but I see what she was trying to achieve. After weeks in that cave, I accepted my new face, and with it, my new fate. She wanted to turn me into a monster? Good. I'll be the worst monster that ever walked the earth. They'll all know real suffering. The new words people will use to describe me is terrifying, ruthless, and darkness. I am an untamable force of nature. I will destroy to create balance and rip away from their mortal illusions. They will know me.
Since I can't bury you, I think it's only right that I eulogize you. It's a shame I can't even do it out loud. From the beginning then, my love? Okay. I made the journey to the island of Sarpedon many, many years ago. I had heard of this horrific monster. I'm sorry, named Medusa. You were cursed for seducing Poseidon in Athena's temple. You were dangerous. Men were embarking on journeys to slay you and never returning. Never particularly strong or brave, I took this as a chance to prove myself. Greatness was a concept to rise to, not for personal fulfillment, but for respect from others. I never had that. The way other men in my life would look at me, they could tell I wasn't like them. They always had this smile when they addressed me. It wasn't a friendly smile, but as if they were holding back laughter, like a joke I wasn't in on. The day I embarked on this journey, though, my father proudly patted me on the back. He hadn't done that since I was young. That alone was enough to fuel me with pride. I arrived, and I thought it'd be easy. I was so stupid. I hadn't even killed an animal before, let alone a mythical beast. My arrogance cost me my life, rightfully so. You snuck up on me, and in an instant, I was no longer a person. I tried to scream, but I was frozen. For a little bit, I was in denial. Surely I must be in shock or some kind of hypnosis. But it wasn't until another man, as foolish as I was, met the same fate a few days later. It was gruesome to see. His face was permanently contorted into a horrified scream. I wondered what I looked like. My line of sight fell upon the cavern where you spent most of your days. The fact that I wasn't able to look away from you when you walked past instilled a rage in me. You horrible, ugly bitch! Hideous monster! Whore! I'd silently spit these insults at you, hoping that somehow you could hear my thoughts. I'd fantasize about some brave warrior making his way into the cave and slaughtering this beast in front of me. Over time, your collection of men grew bigger and bigger, many of whom you handled out of my sight. Distant fighting, a scream, and sudden silence signaled another man's defeat. I wondered about all of them, scattered across Sarpedon. I wondered what they thought. Passed the time thinking about it. One of my early days here, still seething with rage, I heard distant, enchanting music. I felt hope for the first time since my transformation. A goddess was coming to save me. As the beautiful melodies got louder and louder, I could see her approaching. It was just you, singing for yourself. The way your voice echoed throughout the dark cavern felt like a religious experience. I'm sure every bird on this island is seething with envy. My first instinct was to feel disappointment or anger, but I couldn't help but enjoy it. I unconsciously started to look forward to your little songs. They soon became the highlight of my stagnant existence. That day, I realized that my hatred for you was merely out of habit. I reflected on the life I had at home, the life you took me away from. When I really thought about it, this rage in me spanned back to even before I met you. I hated the world. It expected so much of me. That's why I came to kill you in the first place, to prove myself. Murdering a lonely woman on an island. How would that make me any more of a man? I hated myself for never living up to what people wanted. I always felt like I wasn't built right, like the gods were a few parts short when I stumbled into the world. And honestly, I really hated women. I came to kill you because I thought, how hard could it be to hurt a woman? It was something I wanted to do my whole life. Women's emotions made no sense. They were scornful, irrational creatures in my mind. I have this faint memory from my old life. A girl my age, some kind of family friend who I tried to pursue. She was attractive enough and my parents encouraged it. My father encouraging me with a pat on the back. When I approached the girl to discuss courtship, though, I stumbled over my words. I couldn't look her in the eyes. She seemed uneasy at my presence. When I went to touch her hand, she shifted away and meekly declined my offer. Facing my parents afterwards was an embarrassment I thought I'd die from. My father just looked at me, confused. I think he was trying to figure out where he went wrong with me. That moment turned my inability to understand women into an inability to empathize with them. I learned that men don't win them over for love or companionship. They're just for status and creating their legacy. Living with you, though, challenged that. You were just a person. And I know this sounds like a conclusion a child could come to, that women are just people, but the men in my life mystified women like they were some kind of animal that you had to trick into trusting you, like courtship was the greatest scheme that a man could pull. Back then, I felt that girls were too stupid to see that I was an option. I never understood women. Talking to them didn't work. They were too superficial for that. You made me realize I was wrong. Everyone was. As I watched you and got to know you, I couldn't help but find you captivating. I mean, everyone who knows your story knows that you used to be one of the most lovely maidens in Greece. But seeing you up close, I realized that that beauty was an unwavering one that not even a scorned goddess could cast away. I knew your curse was undeserved. The story with Poseidon never added up quite right. From the way you cry to yourself, to the way you wake some nights with a start, I wanted to hold you more than anything. You needed comfort, not isolation. Sometimes I'd hear you mumbling to yourself. For a while, I thought you just made up people to talk to, something to keep you company on your endless nights alone. But I listened closer, and I realized that you had named every one of the snakes on your head. You pet them and coo when they get unruly. Watching it gave me a flurry in my chest, right where my heart once sat. Your gentle nature is stunning. Despite the dreary circumstances, it seemed like you had fun on your own little island. You'd occupy yourself with silly little tasks, like most days you collected flowers or fastened baskets from leaves. Sometimes you'd find a stick and make drawings in the sand. I once watched you catch a butterfly and hold it in front of your face. The bug was immediately petrified, and you admired its frozen wings. If I could laugh, I wouldn't have. It was a little morbid, but a fun little trick. You had quite the sense of humor. Watching you go about your daily life made me wish I could move. I wanted to walk the shore with you, to hunt flowers with you, to embrace you on the colder, darker nights. But I couldn't, of course. I was still happy to spend this time with you. Seeing you happy kept me content. As time went on, I learned more and more things to love about you. I didn't want to hate you at all anymore. Hatred was just all I had known. When I learned that love and adoration was a better way to spend my time than seething with rage for centuries, I let myself fall for you, wholeheartedly. I figured I'd be with you forever, anyways. Eventually, enough time had passed that my life before you felt like a dream I couldn't quite recall. I realized at a certain point I'd probably been a rock here on this island longer than I was ever a man. That thought gave me a strange sense of comfort. I've known you longer than anyone in my life. I sent constant prayers up to any gods that would listen. If they saw you the way that I did, they'd lift this horrible curse. You and I could live the life together that we were meant to. I'd take care of you. I'd share every poem I'd written in my head for you. I'd recite the long, long list of things that I'd memorized about you and fallen in love with. Well, first, I'd obviously apologize for trying to kill you. You'd probably never let me live it down. I would make up for it tenfold. I would give you a better life than anyone ever could. You would have everything you've ever wanted. I just know you'd love me too if we had the chance to really meet. We actually have a lot in common, misunderstood, alone, hated. It was this fantasy of actually meeting you that pulled me through year after year. I imagined it with such detail I could almost feel your skin against mine. And then Perseus came. I saw him and I perked up. I thought he was just another prideful idiot. Go get him, love, I thought, excited to see him defeated. But when I caught a glimpse of how he was approaching you, backwards, something in me went cold. I put together that he was looking for your reflection. It was very smart, and you weren't ready. Couldn't even scream to warn you. You saw him and tried to fight. I could tell you were afraid too. They didn't normally last this long against you. I couldn't even do anything to protect you, right in front of me. And then he lifted his sword. If only I could have averted my eyes. Looking down on you now is something of nightmares. The woman I've loved for centuries. Her body I'd grown to yearn for, slowly eaten by worms in front of my eyes. The air feels still without the constant hissing of your snakes. Your headless body lies grotesquely contorted, limbs splaying out every which way. Soon you'll be nothing but bones, and I'm forced to watch every second. I know, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say a few more things. The things I wish you could have heard. You were so beautiful and incredibly clever. Even if no one else understood you, I did. It may have taken me away from the life I knew, but I'm better now because of it. I can't thank you enough for releasing me from the horrible burden that was my old life. You petrified my body, but softened my heart. I'd give you the most beautiful burial if I could. I'd cover your body in flowers and shells and anoint you with oils and incense. But all I can do is watch over you forever. I am essentially your gravestone, after all. Gods, what else is there to say? I wish you didn't die afraid and alone. I wish I could have given you an easy life. I wish we could have met under different circumstances. I wish you knew how loved you were. Most of all, I wish I got to hold you.
Hear your fate, O dwellers of noble Troy. Greece's lady will give her hand to the boy I told you to kill, and launch 1,000 ships. Your greatest warriors will die. Your women will be enslaved. But the world's greatest civilization will rise from your ashes.
That's pretty good, right? Sometimes when Apollo doesn't feel like talking, you do have to put on a bit of a show. Of course, they say nowadays that none of it was ever real. That the Oracle of Delphi never had any real visions from Apollo. That I was just high. I mean, it's also being said that the inhabitants of Salem were drinking LSD water, and to me that just sounds like an excuse for what they did. Murdering women all of a sudden makes sense. They were on drugs. Anyway, whether or not that's true, why do you people want illogical things to make sense? If the Oracle of Delphi had a vision, it's because she was high. Now it makes logical sense. Now you're not lying awake at night thinking of Apollonian visions. But since you care so much about how it all works, I'll tell you. Me and the girls live in the temple of Apollo. And believe me, even if I wasn't the Oracle, I wouldn't trade this home for the world. In the inner temple, where I prophesy, there's this fissure in the ground that holds the spirit of Apollo. And everyone's been trying to say that fumes come up out of it. And that's what it was that was making me see things. But actually, if you do the research, there's not a lot of evidence to suggest that any fumes did anything. That was Plutarch, by the way, who first said that. And that guy is so full of shit. Everyone looked at what this man wrote and believed him. Really thought we'd grown as a society. And anyways, I think it's pretty insensitive of you all to assume that Apollo wasn't real. I don't go around saying that Jesus was just a guy or that there's no such place as nirvana. We are supposed to be really enlightened and tolerant. But I've never seen a scholarly article positing that I may have actually been getting visions from Apollo, even though I was. Even if it wasn't all the time, even if sometimes I just had a total dry spell and started to believe that I might be broken or that Apollo wasn't real.
lying there next to Aurelia, trying not to cry. And she'd take my face in her hands and promise me again and again and again that I wasn't making it all up. And Apollo wasn't mad at me. And remember that time that I predicted the Trojan War? And it didn't matter because she loved me. Shit. Here I am, the Oracle of fucking Delphi, sitting here trying to tell you that it was all real. And instead I start going on about my imposter syndrome, as if you care. Like this is a therapy session or something. And it doesn't matter. Then again, maybe it does. Because I'm breaking down in front of you, and you're still going to go home and Google, was the Oracle of Delphi stoned? And it's not going to matter to you that all of this is kind of ruining somebody's life, a real person's life. I mean, it's just kind of hard. When I used to be one of the most respected women in all of Greece, and now I'm just high. Well, if that's what helps you sleep at night, I hope it works. I hope you're not lying awake at night thinking about it. But it doesn't matter what I hope. I'm the Oracle of Delphi, and I know you will be. Because you're afraid. Afraid to admit that I might just be real.
What are you going to do? I know what you're going to do. Seen it before. You can't destroy me. It's been done. You think this fruit is fresh for your plucking? I loved Apollo. He promised me music and love and that I'd be his forever. Then one day, out of nowhere, like a star reaching for supernova, my third eye burst from my skull singing of brighter days. It gave me such a beautiful gift. A gift that transcended mere potential experiences into reality. I could see everything from today to tomorrow and beyond. When it came time for me to give myself to him, I couldn't. I don't know why, but my insides churned. Deep, they churned, and I couldn't stop it. Had to listen. My womb shamed me, blamed me for loving him so. Loving him pushed me too far. Whispers of brighter days soon became screams of horror. Blood flowing freely in the streets, my people pleading for aid and safety while there was nothing I could do. I echoed my visions to the world, but none believed me. I saw you, and I saw the atrocities you committed, the atrocities passed to your people as noble. I saw you rip my mother from my arms, you and your men raping my sisters, torturing them, enslaving them. Divulged every image in my mind, time and time and time again to my mother. He's coming for all of us, I'd say. Agamemnon wants me and will take you away from me. She never believed. She was blinded by denial, blinded along with everyone else. I screamed the truth until I was hoarse but none heard. I gave everything to warn them of what was to come. I have nothing left.
So if your plan is to strip me down, peel the skin from my bones, win this battle by claiming my body, you've already lost.
Today, we gather to honor my husband Hector. He was our gallant prince and protector of our great city. And the legend of Hector will live on, and we'll remember him as a fierce soldier who sent many foes to Hades for the glory of Troy. He was more than that to me. He was my husband. He was father to my son. He was a soldier that did not live for war. His skills at combat were as much a curse to him as it was a gift. And he was wise enough to acknowledge that war is a plague to us all. His hands, they were of grit and callous from sword and shield, but what he loved to hold most was his son. Oh, those hands once held me in loving embrace. And those hands, they defended the city to the very end. And they're gone now. I'll never know their touch again. And Troy has not just lost a soldier, you not just lost a prince. You lost the leader of your future. You lost the heart of your army. Some of you hide behind your walls, and you only know war from the stories you're told. My husband knew the horrors of war. He felt the weight of every life he took. He heard the cries of every fallen foe. Some of you go to war for glory. My husband, he fought only to honor his father as a dutiful son, but to save the ones he loved. I mean, he died for me. He died for my son. He died for every single one of you here now. Hector was the best of us, and he deserved better than a life filled with death. Hector was the son to me. I will forever be haunted by the chill of this world. He did not receive a peaceful death. No, he was ripped from this world. His body was dragged and desecrated by Achilles, and all for his brother's mistakes, which he advised against. And in a battle that we could have ended days before if we just listened to him and let the Greeks retreat home across the sea. But the council, they listened to the signs of the gods, and we press our advantage upon them. I mean, if we had listened to the wisest among us, my husband would be here and my son would know his father as a man and not a memory. I have a fury come too close. So if anybody here has a right to ask for blood, for vengeance, it's me. But instead, I am standing here and I seek to sway you from any deeds that would lead us to more war and more suffering. How many more brave men of Troy must we lose? How much more blood needs stain our shores? Hector, he spoke of a future in which his skills of combat would no longer be needed. That's a future he'll never see. But that's one we can make a reality. People of Troy, I beg you, please, don't look upon my husband's body and let it stir in you a desire for revenge. Let his memory guide us to cherish wisdom over war. Let us pray for a time of peace.
Is there anyone around? Oh, I can't keep it in any longer. I must bury this exceptional secret. Aha. This will do. This patch of soft soil and ruthless reeds will be my confidant. Some time ago, King Midas insisted on donning a turban for all his days. As his barber, I couldn't help but to think why he would hide that hallowed hair of his. Tresses I have treated tirelessly to tame. But last week, oh, how delightfully dreadful! I saw what Midas contrived to keep concealed. I mustn't divulge it to anyone, for then I would be violating the virtuous verbiage verily entrusted to me. No, you devious dirt. Must you dragoon me to deride and disparage our king? Very well. I impart unto you the most sanctimonious secret I have heard. Tentatively, the king, with terrific tact, doffed the tenacious turban upon his head. Oh, the very sight did shock my hatefully hapless heart. I neglect the narrative of the misadventure from the ruined regent. The cruel chronicle goes something like this. Coming upon a casual contest, Midas met with Apollo and Pan to adjudicate between the lyre and pipe. Alas, he did take the path of Paris and provoked an obstinate Olympian. Naming Pan as the merrier minstrel, Midas marked his maleficent mistake. Apollo assessed his ability of appreciating acoustical tones. He discovered it less than class and turned King Midas' ears to those of an ass. Midas made me vow to never mention the metamorphical mule affliction to any living individual. I tried, I truly did, to cure the curse. My clippers could not keep the clandestine calamity Apollo cast upon Midas away. Apollo asked out. Poor choice of words there, I admit. Damn it, iambic pentameter. It made me stress that syllable. Reproach the poet, not me. Where was I? Why must I meddle amid myself among the middle of verse? I shall have to start over.
King Midas is... no. Nay. The moment is ruined. Curse the assassination of my Ictus. I shall come up with a new poem. A better poem. I must simply spill the tea, blow the whistle, and, dare I say, dish the dirt. Ugh. I have been reduced to reciting puns and prose. This is what secrets do. They force one to quip. Ghastly. They stir up the egregious gossip in me. I swore not to tell any living soul. Soil is soulless and empty from the essence of life. This lives, but has it a soul? Well, a reed is like a stick, and the river Styx carries away souls, so surely the stalk is soulless. To thou, dear reed, I do officially shed this burden. Soil and reeds are not living. My confidence I can safely concede. Apollo will not be unforgiving when terrible truths are told to this reed. It will never be known, except for me. No bard to valorously versify the tale of the king's ears of a donkey, or the curse that Midas was marred by. Yet I am but a man, not Apollo. And I have no doubt of his artifice to prompt the power of the echo nymph, or his sometimes sister, dear Nemesis, to ensure the vast communication of his mythical mortification! Ugh!
Hi, my name's Nat Breetab. Some of you may know me. I'm the shadow of that kid, Peter Pan. And yes, my name is his name spelled backwards. It's kind of our thing with me being a shadow and all. It's funny. You know, I never even asked to exist, but then boom, out of nowhere, you're a freaking shadow? And get this, you're not just any average shadow, you're the kid who never wants to grow up shadow. Tethered forever to the boy wonder with the stupid little tights. Yeah, he's a real riot. Always running around like he's still 2 years old, and I'm on his back feeling like I'm 160. And I just realized I'm never gonna get any taller. This dude is gonna be the same size forever if he keeps this lifelong kid thing up. I wish circumstances were different. You know, maybe if he would ask me sometimes what I wanted to do with our life, but no, he only thinks about himself. Sure, we've got a little rhythm going. He points at me, I'll point back, you know, he does his little dance and I'll copy, but sometimes I think, couldn't I be capable of more? Is this all I have to offer? Sometimes I wonder if he thinks of me as an individual or someone that's just hopelessly tied to him. So get this. We're flying around, just hanging. It's a regular night. Beautiful sky. The view of London is outstanding and clear, and then boom, I slam into the wall of this gritty apartment building. I, for one, would much rather sit on a bench and people watch tonight, but Pan the man thinks we need to go into this person's home. I tried to tell him that this would be breaking and entering, and that normal people don't do this, but I'm too late. So we're sneaking around in this house, and I started to get nervous, so I tried to pull myself off of him. And get this. It worked. Guess I wasn't tied so tightly to him after all, because I pulled myself off and hid inside. He comes into the room, and there's these random kids, and this random girl, God, what was her name? Winnie? Winona? No, her name was Wendy, I think. I don't know. This was the first time he'd ever cared about me or where I'd gone. I actually felt kind of special. He was looking for me because he cared, up until that girl woke up. Initially, this made me a little upset, but I was allowed to just sit down for a minute, but I decided not to care. So he starts talking to whatever her name is, and she immediately starts acting like an adult in the little kid's body. This makes me like her immediately, like, hey Pan, why don't you take some pointers from this gal? She's all motherly and kind and sassy, just what Pan needs to grow the heck up. I'm too busy overhearing them talk that I don't realize that Pan is right next to me, getting ready to grab me and pull me back onto him. Oh, and lucky for him, this girl also knows how to sew. I don't know whether to love her or hate her at this point. I tried to tell her that I am much happier not being tied to Peter Pan, but what do you know? She doesn't listen. All those brains but no ears, I guess. Starts sewing on me, and I am trying with all my might to get away, but she's got a pretty strong grip. I could see this as being some kind of metaphor. Like how if you love something, it'll come back to you, or maybe you will come back to it. Or more realistically, the life that you're given, you are stuck with. And I'm leaning more towards the second one. So there I was, stuck back to Peter Pan and 3 additional children. And that's when I realized I truly don't get paid enough for this.
I've been dying to tell you. So, I don't know if you've heard, but apparently Peter Pan banished Tinkerbell. Like, for a really long time. No, I'm not kidding. Why would I joke about this? No, I know I was the one who spread that rumor about Hogan's me being gay. But, well, who doesn't think that? I mean, you've seen the way Smee follows him around. It's not like it's some big secret. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I just think Smee could do way better than Hook. Besides, you can't tell me a straight man would have a coat like that and a whole collection of golden hooks. No. Yeah, I guess I would have a collection of gold hooks if a kid cut off my hand too. But I certainly wouldn't be as bitter as he is. Some flying kid cut off his hand and fed it to a crocodile. That doesn't make it okay for him to talk to his crew the way he does. I've heard the things he yells at them when I swim by their ship. They're just awful. And apparently, Hook's a racist too. Yeah. Coral and I were were sitting out by Marooners Rock while he was taking Tiger Lily out there to, like, get some information about Peter Pan or something. I don't really know what was happening, but you should have heard the racist things he was saying to her out there. Isn't it bad enough he literally kidnapped a princess? He has to be racist on top of it? I mean, doesn't he know there are literally thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women? Ugh. Honestly, we'd be better off if that crocodile would just eat him already. He's gonna keep being problematic and murdering children and stuff. I don't see why he doesn't just leave Neverland. I mean, it's not like he doesn't have a giant ship and can't literally sail out of here. I know I said it before, but Smee deserves so much better. You know who else deserves better? Tinkerbell. You knew I would get to it eventually. I'm honestly surprised you haven't heard about this before. So, apparently, Peter brought this new girl to the island and started giving her all this attention, which you just know made Tink jealous. I mean, she doesn't even like it when he talks to us. Do you really think she's gonna be okay with him bringing some whole other girl to the island? Anyways, she had the Lost Boys try to kill the Wendy bird or whatever, and Pan was livid when he found out. He didn't even consider Tinkerbell's feelings. He just threw her out. And now he's dragging this girl all around the island in her nightgown. Of all things, well, Tinkerbell's literally devastated. Well, and get this. Peter actually brought that Wendy to Mermaid Lagoon the other day. Of course, I'm serious. I saw it with my own two eyes. It was so funny. So, Peter came down, being all cocky and full of himself, like always. I don't see why they fawn all over him when he does stuff like that. It's honestly obnoxious, right? And he's like 12? I don't get it. Anyways, he comes down doing that annoying rooster thing he does and has his clumsy little bird in a nightgown following him. I saw her first, of course. I wanted to see how long it would take the others to notice. You know, they can be such bubble brains sometimes. So, they see her, and they start freaking out. And pull at her dress and her hair, and start trying to drown her, and Pan is just floating there, laughing like the cocky brat he is. I'm watching this whole thing happen, like, you are all so messed up. Hasn't anyone on this island ever heard of therapy? No. But Pan's always been a player. He doesn't care about anyone's feelings except his own. You should hear what the Lost Boys say about him when he's not around. Slightly was telling me that he doesn't even let them learn things about themselves if Pan himself doesn't know. It's like some crazy rule they have. And poor Toodles. Now, he was the one who shot that Wendy thing with the arrow. He asked Pan to kill him for striking her. And Pan was actually going to do it. Can you imagine killing someone who's followed you for this long over some broad in a nightgown? everyone a lot of stress, but I guess she's just more patient than I am. We can talk about this more when I see you tonight. You're going to Hell at the Moon with everyone, right? Okay, I'll see you then. We've missed you. Luring men to their deaths just isn't the same when you're gone. I better get going though. I need to wash this kelp mask off and do my makeup. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye! Never a dull day in Neverland, I guess.
An older woman from the village took my hand and told me, the loss of a child is the hardest thing any woman ever has to experience. And God, she's right. I think I'm still in shock, but I already feel so empty. I don't know how I'm supposed to keep living. But after his crucifixion and he was officially pronounced dead, I also felt this relief, a sense of peace I hadn't experienced since before he existed. I had been holding a secret for so many years, I didn't realize how heavy it felt until it was gone, until he was gone. Losing him is a pain I could have never prepared for, of course, but the hardest time of my life. Would you judge me if I said it was his birth? I had fucked up. I'd be the first to admit it. I was unfaithful to a man who loved me more than anything. If I had just kept my legs closed, I could have lived a quiet, stable life. Would it have been much fun? Probably not. But life isn't about having fun. It's about making good choices. Or that's what people always tell you, at least. My good choice was Joseph. He wasn't the smartest, but he wanted to take care of me. He worked hard and loved God. My parents approved of him. We had plans for the future. God, we weren't even married yet and life was already starting to feel boring. Marriage itself isn't what sounded so bad. It was being a wife that I dreaded. When boys are young, they have so many options. A holy man, a carpenter, a soldier. I learned from a young age that the best thing you can become is a wife, then a mother. The worst you can be is a whore. As a girl, these were presented as my only choices. And for some reason, you couldn't be both. Ironically, both of these roles required you to sleep with a man. On the other hand, men can have all the fun they wanted and still be respected. I never thought this was fair. Even if a woman manages to keep her fun a secret, her womb may have other plans. That's what happened to me. It's no excuse. But I just wanted to be selfish for once. I couldn't do one thing for fun before living a lifetime of devotion. Nope, of course. My body betrayed me. It was after only one time, too. One exciting night is apparently bad enough to warrant 9 months of torture, hours of labor, and a lifetime of secret keeping. I know I shouldn't say this. I already sound like a really bad person. But honestly, the sex was almost worth it. I had never experienced anything like that, and I haven't since. This man, I never even got his name. I passed him all the time on my way to the market. He sold the most beautiful jewelry I had ever seen. I'd stop at his stand and admire his work. I could never afford any of his wares. I just wanted him to notice me. He was, fuck it, I'll say it, unbelievably sexy. Something about him was so dark and alluring. I had never been looked at that way in my life. I kept my lust for this man a secret fantasy. Every time I saw him, I had to convince myself that the man I had at home was good enough. However, when Joseph officially asked for my hand in marriage, I panicked. I known it was coming. We had discussed it many times, but shit, hearing the actual question was totally different. I was so young. I hadn't experienced anything, not passion, not fulfillment, not love. Well, I guess I loved Joseph, but being together forever, my one and only, I know it's terrible to say, but ew. Anyways, the next day I went to the market and asked the jewelry man if we could meet that night. He simply smiled and nodded. We both knew what we wanted. It was easy. So that night I met him, and God damn, I'll spare you the details. But after that, I understood why men talked about sex so much. Nobody told me that it could feel so good. I also found out that men aren't as tough or as powerful as they like to make us think. I learned that I can make a man beg if I wanted to. I could give him something he could never give himself. Felt pretty awesome. In the days after our encounter, my brain would replay moments with him that made my body shiver. That afterglow didn't last long. I realized I was with a child and immediately tried to undo it. I ate dangerous things. I tried starving myself. I punched myself in the gut. Hell, I prayed it would just fall out of me. Joseph noticed my strange demeanor and brought it up. It was before I had time to spin a story that was convincing enough. Is there something you're not telling me? He asked. I was caught off guard. My mind raced. There was a million lies I could have fallen back on in regards to who the father was. All of them would have been better than what ended up clumsily tumbling out of my mouth. I had the bright idea of choosing the big man himself. Yeah, that one. And I was just rambling and making it worse and couldn't stop. An angel, a virgin birth, the Son of God. What were you thinking, Mary? I mean, even at the time, I knew it was ridiculous. I'm not proud that I took advantage of Joseph's piousness and naivety. Maybe a part of me wanted him not to believe it. Being left is always better than leaving. If that had played out, I would have been somewhat of a victim. At least somebody would feel sorry for me, a young, lonely mother left to parent on her own. But no, Joseph had to be the kind-hearted man he is and marry me. That fucker. People of the town were buzzing about my supposed miracle pregnancy. A surprising amount actually seemed to believe me. Most of them were probably too polite to question me to my face, though. Of course, people are going to talk shit. I wouldn't believe me either. The men around town were especially brutal to Joseph. How embarrassing to be sticking around for a child that's not your own. How emasculating. He was good at playing it off, but I know their words secretly got to him. Deep down, it made him feel like less of a man. They'll see, he'd say, patting my belly when our little Messiah is delivered, and winked at me. Whenever he did this, I wanted the ground to open up and swallow me. I'm an evil bitch, I thought to myself as I smiled back to him. Months passed, and my stomach grew bigger and bigger. I vomited often, whether from guilt or morning sickness, I honestly have no idea. Pregnancy is supposed to be this beautiful thing, so pure and natural. I hated every minute. The baby, this once abstract idea, became more and more real every day. I was filled with constant dread. Anytime I lost my breath, anytime my back got sore, anytime I had to pee, which was constantly, it reminded me that I was a bad person. All the pain was miserable, but I took it. I thought of it like paying a penance. Time passed. I was almost due when we had to travel to Bethlehem for the stupid census. A silly thought crossed my mind. Wouldn't it be miserable if I went into labor before we made it home? And of course, it happened because why wouldn't it? Fuck you, Caesar Augustus. When every inn within walking distance was full, and we realized I had to give birth among farm animals, I couldn't even be upset. I felt like it was another warranted punishment. The smell was nauseating, and the hate pricked me no matter how I sat. I deserve this, I thought. I tried to breathe through the contractions. Joseph was so sweet, constantly asking me if I needed anything. It took everything in me not to shove him away and have him leave me alone. His presence pissed me off. When I was young, I once watched a wild dog catch a rabbit. He tore open the poor thing's abdomen until the entrails spilled out. It yanked each organ out like a toy. Every time the contractions returned, I couldn't help but picture myself as the rabbit. Eventually, I was screaming from the depths of my guts. The wails were from pain, embarrassment, anger. I was mourning the loss of my own life. My child was going to grow up to be normal, or even below average, and people would know that I was a whore and a liar. I pushed with everything I had. I wanted this stupid thing out of me. I hated myself for being so careless. I hated my body for letting this happen. I hated this baby for not understanding it wasn't wanted.
I let this hatred fuel me for hours. I pushed and screamed and hated. I secretly wished the pain would kill me. And for a while, it felt like it actually would. Then this great release, a literal weight left my body. Endorphins flooded through my body like an old roof caving in. I felt different. Joseph scrambled to swaddle the baby. A brief silence, then I heard the baby before I saw him. He screamed like he already knew the horrors of the world I just ripped him into. My eyes didn't even want to settle on the baby. I had been dreading this day for so long. I knew that once I let myself look at him, nothing would ever be the same. From that night on, my life was to be punctuated by this baby's arrival. I would only organize my memories by before and after. Him and I were bound together, not just by blood, but by that terrible lie that would dictate the rest of our lives. Joseph handed the bundle to me, smiling deliriously. Finally, I looked down at my baby. Baby Jesus. Oh, his little face, covered in blood and mucus and a mess of birth. He was the most perfect thing I had ever seen. Any resentment I had for him, for merely existing, simply melted away. In that moment, I was experiencing something truly holy. I saw God in his little feet. The way his hand somehow knew to grab my finger, his tiny chest moving up and down with his sobs, the way he instinctively clung and began to suckle. How did this happen? I was a horrible and ugly person deep down. If my body was so sinful, how did it make him? I don't know if he could wash away the sins of humanity, even if he was the Messiah. The world is made up of bad people who think they're good. No one wants to admit that their soul needs saving. But looking down at him, I realized that for a moment, he already saved mine.
Just like that, the king and queen are reunited. Rejoice, feast, be merry in the presence of the ones you love. What of those who do nothing but watch such two-faced festivities? Or rather, what is there for me to enjoy? My hard work, my trickery, and my spells all undone? The mortal's wedding? The reunion of my king and his one true adversary? I see no cause for merrymaking. The jester, the king's tool, only sees causes for mourning. 'Twould be considered inappropriate for an imp such as myself. In my own time of need, I cannot bring a smile to my own face. Perhaps this is just. Too long have I curled my lips in favor of pleasing those around me. Once shall I allow a darkened leer to come to these bright eyes. Such a novice mistake, thinking this time would be any different. Truly, I have been misled to believe I am anything more than a stain to my kingdom, to my king. No pixie low as I could ever recase Titania permanently, no matter what mine heart or his lips may murmur. She and I, we are the same. We too have been cast aside. We too have had our hearts, our pride torn asunder. But then, as a speck of want shoots through in the dark, we follow our plight like a moth to the flame. And yet, in the end, I have been forsaken, while Titania, no matter which end of the sword she ends up on, she has arms to run to, be they Oberon's or the mortals or her courts. Damn him. Damn the flame of his lapping arms, and damn the moth who welcomes his own immolation. He knows there'll only be pain, as there have been countless times before. So moth is left to realize that that's all he ever wants from me. So I may punish those he sees fit, and then warm his feet at night. For all my love potions, my illusions, my wit, I've yet to hold the key to my own desires. Perhaps it's not that simple. Could it be I do hold the key? I simply do not dare peer through the lock? Could it be I can open this door, as I have before, with lies and deceit, but I wish to do it as Titania has, with love, free of flowers. Oh, I never could. When will the pixie learn? He will never learn. I will never learn, because every time I fall for the feel of his skin and the sound of his pulse, I fall victim to his own flavor of trickery. It's like a bitter wine, but twice as intoxicating. And every time I'm pushed away, I hear my heart whisper, what of the touch we shared when she was off with the ass? And what of charming accolades at dusk, joking stories, nights spent entangled in each other's bed? If all I have been was a toy, then why such splendor? Why such tenderness? Why profess your love for someone you only plan to hurt, cast aside? Did I misunderstand, or did I deceive myself into believing something he never breathed? I'm to be Oberon's slave, his hail fellow well met, living in a false stupor, a placeholder for the beast that remains his wed? Has he forgotten when he confessed his beguilement so sweetly? What a joke. What a cruel sentence. The one who has caused so much harm, the one who takes pleasure in the misfortune he causes to everyone except his heart's desire, is forced to watch his misfortune falls upon himself? Oberon sought me out. He seduced me. He melted me down with heat to make me pliable as he pleased. If I'll head over heels without the magic, will be cast aside without a second thought. Brings the ass to mind. Does he feel as I do? Does he feel we've been cheated by class, or cheated by ourselves into believing our royal trysts or anything more than just that? Surely he's smart enough to realize a queen such as she could never fall for someone as crass as he. Maybe ignorance is bliss. Maybe he can recall their gallivanting with the joy that a goatherd would recall a dream of being rich. It was a dream, after all, for him. Was it a dream for me, too? Oh, that I could share more similarities with such an ass about a blind love, it makes me sick. But it is the truth. But it is reality. There will be no kiss to wake me. No morning dew to wash my face of tears. Alas, I cannot do as I've done before and blind myself to prevent it. 'Twas my magic that got me into this mess. I shall not use it to get myself out. Truly, this is crueler than any of my games. It is one I cannot escape from. Wait, my game? When was this ever my game? 'Twasn't I who bore ill towards the mortals, nor I who sought to create an ass of my own will. We shall all blame Titania and Oberon for that grief. 'Tis not my crooked game. I was merely a piece. 'Tisn't chess nor jackstones, 'tis their wily venereal war that I've been trapped in. Oh, the gall, the The nerve! They are adversaries, and we're all just victims of their hatred. They delight in this game of cat and mouse, of infidelity, of revenge, of love, if love is even the right word. What's the truth? Where do I lay? Are we the lie, or are they? Oh, God, there I go again. Of course I am the lie. I seek the truth, and yet my very business is lies. To that end, I'm no better than Oberon. We live our life by games. We delight in the chaos we cause. Disregard the carnage, the consequences. We do not care. The crook in my game, though, the one that makes Oberon the victor and I the victim, it is that I forgot about the game. Truly, I did. I forgot about the game, and he did no such thing. Instead, he continues to play by the rules that all our little ploys exist in a vacuum, while I let my mind run away with my heart. In a way, in that light, what a perfect match. That's just more of my own fantasy. His reality is that he is Oberon, king of the fairies, and he is married to Titania, the Duchess of the Forest. They rule with an iron fist and claw, and I am his jester that bends for his enjoyment. Now they've drunk rosy wine to forget it all happened. They've put aside their fury to delight in the fantasy that they could ever be happy together. And with that, my fantasy that I could ever be happy with him is shattered. Therefore, I say not Titania, nor Bottom, nor Oberon am I'm Puck, the one who's cursed himself with something more powerful than magic. I've cursed myself with inefficacious love. But if it be a curse of my own, then I alone shall be the one to undo it. I be Puck, the wretched pixie, the one who lives his life by illusions, but they are my illusions. They do not control me, I control them. Be not Oberon who guides my hands, for they are not his hands to guide. As fate does fall upon my eye, a woeful sorrow I do spy for a fairy whose wings have scars that hung his hopes upon false stars. Suppose I sought a false succession, though now that's left a pitiful question. Can you break a broken clock? And would a robin fall for a hawk? The hawk, he mocks and jives his wed, while inviting another to his bed. But the wed thinks not of this contender, and the king even less of his splendor. A fake romance I must have sought, falser than the illusions I wrought. I'll regain this battle of sacred arts, if not a war of words, a war of hearts. Nay, not the heart I sought to own, never again shall I bow to his throne. My pride was shattered for that boor. Shattered shall it be no more. If Robin Goodfellow be my name, from now 'twill be my game.
Folly, thy name is man. Though women's strength may lie in patience, endurance, and understanding, men's strength lies in deceit, hatred, and cruelty, and folly. And who suffers at these so-called strengths of man? Those that perpetuate these offenses, or those who endure them? I tried for so long to keep my back straight under the force of these adverse strengths, but to what end? To grief? To despair? To supposed madness? I had so many thoughts inside of my head, and none of them my own, and I wish they'd just stay quiet for once. So I dunked my head to wash my tears and stop my ears for just a moment. It's so peaceful underwater and quiet. And my back was stooped from enduring men's folly. So I let my exhaustion and my grief, like the weighty strands of my hair, drag me down. What is the difference between rivers to drown in? This one is at least cool and clear instead of boiling and oppressive. But I will be the same in death as I was in life, floating, yet still drowning. Pulled this way and that with the current, changed only by the outward forces of nature that are altogether stronger than I will ever be. And I will endure, as I always have and always will.
After a few hungry days, my new husband cooked fowl, served with cheese and honey. I turned my eyes to Blades. I wanted him leaner, easier to take down. His movements were quick, like the wiry lizard that scrambled over the rocks behind my childhood home. I mourned the glades where the fireflies burned in the evening light. I'd never before left our hills, where beacons shone in the night, where we watched the men in their elegant cloaks and wondered which our families would choose for us to wed. Still, we were eager to see Rome, bursting with newness. What of the scruff and riffraff drawn to Romulus like starving wolves? No one believed the stories of his birth. My parents, too, were eager to see the city, though they didn't like the Romans. Romulus was surprising, soft-spoken as he greeted us. We honored the gods. The wrestling matches were stirring at first, then boring. Always the same ending. One man snarling over another. I liked the banners. We were midway through a passable, if we're being generous, course in Latin, when Romulus stood again, tumbled his cloak over his shoulder. It looked odd. Then the tumult and the flurry that you've heard about. It is awful to be thrown over someone's shoulder, a sword hilt bruising your ribs. I kicked, I scratched, I never saw what happened to my parents. Just found out later my mother's ankle snapped under a burly foot as she and my father fought them off, empty-handed. For peace, our king told us to leave our weapons at home. Finally, the huffing men dropped us. Their captives. We formed a circle. When it was the little one's turn, he couldn't choose, scuffing his sandal on a tuft of grass. I'm the one who pointed at him, just to get it over with. Few of the Romans sniggered at our tears, at how the dirt clung to our wet faces. Romulus
shook his head at the taunting. The men fell silent and bowed to us. He'd killed his own twin brother for less. Beside me sat Valentina, who would clamber with the beautiful Sabine boy named Klaus. Small, white butterflies love. She shuddered gigantic sobs. Priscilla might have had it the worst. The only one of us who was already married. Had Romulus known? Wanted her that much? She said nothing. Only turned her head from the 7 hills of Rome to the hills of her home. Her spine rigid as stone. I won't come near, he said. I hated him for such a lie. Every night I'd say to myself, we'll see. I'm the one who pulled his head onto my shoulder in the evening light. And then, another night, I slid off my dress, tumbling it over my shoulder like a cape as Romulus had. My Roman man laughed, only after I did, stunned. After how many nights of him saying, I won't come near, did the thread that ran from my heart, pounding in Rome, back to Sabine, my mother and father, and the streams and hills of my childhood own, encircle him as well. Pulls us, taut and infinite, a spot of light on the wall, and now he breathes what I exhale. I breathe what he exhales. And a child has come to bring new breath into the world.
We whispered among ourselves the news. They were marching to Rome to rescue us. Our brothers, our uncles, our lovers, and our fathers.
Our hearts split in two and kept beating. How can we build our world upon a crime? If you tear down the world each time wrong is done, nothing will ever be built. And if you are silent, what is built will not stand. The night we were taken, we wondered why the sky was empty of moon, bright with stars, as if Luna herself had turned away.
Our water comes to us from the hills of our birth, the streams joining the Tiber River, growing wider and faster until it reaches us in Rome.
Every day the waters of Sabina saves us.
We said, enough! Men abducted us. We have married and borne children to these men. And now our families, our countrymen, are coming to spear them. We must stop what we can stop. At the drawn edges of battle, the banners, the spears,
We appeared and shocked the gathered armies.
We refuse to choose sides.
How can this be any victory? Either ourselves or our children, left with dead fathers.
it was one of us, Hersilia, the daughter of the Sabine king,
Now, the kidnapped wife of the Roman king.
who ended the fighting by placing her children in the very center of the field of battle.
We are the ones who chose the slow, healing heartbreak of peace. We saved Rome. Our children spread from legend into history. So I found this website specifically for depressed people going through post-breakup withdrawal, and it's great, just so you know. That's not what I'm doing. I'm on this God's ordained website called Get Stupid with Cupid, and it has great reviews, so I'm setting up my profile now. Username, Medea. My ex-husband, Jason, used to be like, "Hey, Medea, my dear." Idiot. Ooh, create my profile. This is so exciting. Background. I'm a descendant of sun gods and the daughter of King Aidas. I'm the goddess of magic, basically. If you look me up, it'll say the goddess of mass delusions, but I prefer to be referred to as the goddess of really great ideas. Fun quirks about me. I love to make my own teas, both lethal and non-lethal. I make some bomb lotions. Not all of them explode though. These are the kind that like slowly eat away at your flesh for hours, right off the bone, making you regret your very existence. And by then you're dead, so it doesn't even matter. Oh my god. I did this to this girl, Glousy, the chick that Jason left me for. And apparently my plan worked better than expected because I killed her dad too. Oh my god. I just eke good luck. Favorite rom-com. Oh golly. I'd have to say Oedipus the King. When he finds out that he married his own mother and she hangs herself and he's so overcome with grief that he gouges out his own eyes and he sentences himself to a lifetime eternal damnation. It gets me every time. What kind of car do you drive? It's a 431 BC Deus Ex Machina Dragon Chariot, and it's hot. Perfect for great getaways. But of course I don't like to draw too much attention to myself. What are you looking for in a man? What am I looking for? I didn't get that far. Well, I definitely want a leader. Or at least someone who can pose as a leader, but is easily susceptible to my charm so I can help guide him in the right direction. But other than that, I don't know if this other thing is like too much to ask for. I know I set my expectations pretty high, but I don't want to be treated like crap. Oh, when I found out that Jason cheated on me, I didn't like it. I got that feeling that makes you feel like better than everyone and then more worthless than dirt. And I hate that. I got that burning kind of anger, you know, that kind of like worms inside of you and eats away at you and makes you want to kill somebody or a bunch of people or somebody and everyone that he has ever loved, just so you can get that look in his eyes, that look that says, oh crap, I made a mistake. But I didn't get that look. And I thought I'd see it when he realized his kids were dead. Well, my kids, technically. You know, if everything could be technical, relationships would be so easy. Then I guess they really wouldn't be called
called relationships. They'd be called something more like technoships. I really love that. What were we talking about? What are you looking for in a man? You know, they actually asked me. They were like, "Are you and Daddy gonna get a divorce?" And I was like, "We are 100% going to get a divorce, but don't worry because Mommy is going to make Daddy's life a living hell from now on." And they were like, "Was it something that we did?" And no, it wasn't that. Of course not, it wasn't their fault, and I told them that before just before. Oh my God, shut up. What? You're looking at me like I'm a bad person. I'm not a bad person. I may not have been the best of moms, but nobody's perfect. I mean, look at you. No, you know what? I saved my kids from a childhood of having to explain to them why Daddy can't come to a parent-teacher conference, or who's gonna get Daddy on the weekends, or having to explain to them why we will literally never have a normal family Thanksgiving, because no, Aunt Iris, for the 15th time, I'm not gonna talk about what happened between Jason and I, and over my dead body, are we gonna have a custody battle over our kids? They were our kids. It takes two, I'm not a freaking mushroom. And don't sit there and act like you're the only one suffering. Because of you, now we both are miserable creatures now. We get to hurt together, and I want you to hurt with me. Well, fair enough, right? Or whatever fair is. You know, that's something else that I did for my children. Now they will never have to learn how disgustingly unfair everything is. And I was a faithful wife. Jason and I did everything. I did everything for him. I fought with him. I even completed that stupid Golden Fleece mission. Where's my moral reward, Zeus? I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm just gonna say it. I loved him, I think. You know, it's that fiery kind of love that makes someone of my status do something that they will never do. For example, pretend you're important, use your imagination. You're possessed by that kind of love. That kind of love that'll make you lower yourself enough to bring him coffee to his bed in the morning, or write him those stupid love letters, or clean his armor, even though we literally have servants who can do that for him. Have you ever loved like that? That disgusting, senseless love? That logicless, unexplainable, unconditional, reckless, stupid love! I guess I learned my lesson, huh? I will be treated like a queen. Because foot washing is for slaves, and so is loving. But just tell me, humor me. Is it too much to want to be loved back? What are you looking for in a man? I don't know, someone to just be there. Oh my God, I got a response already from King Aegeus. Hey girl, looking at your profile now, LOL. Looking for a bride to give me an heir to the throne, down. Oh my God, oh my God. Fine. We'll meet tomorrow to go over wedding plans.
It's the middle summer, I've been waking up and throw my eyes, my nose so stuffed, holding like this can be oh so tough. I'm usually up in town talking to all the folks, but now I can't. All I do is choke on what's inside. I think my nose is broke. I usually stay away, 'cause they see me coming and they run away. But hey, if it's safety they seek, then I'll stay inside today. 'Cause I sneeze and shout and blow things down. And they call me the big bad wolf. I notice three little pigs moving across the street. I want to tell them that I love to meet, but no I can't, I'ma stay discreet. But I know how hard it is building on your own. And here's these three trying to build their homes, might offer help, make my presence known. And I think, hey, okay, I'd say I haven't sneezed even once today. So hey, I'll risk my luck and help some friends along the way. I won't sneeze or shout or blow things down. They won't call me the big bad wolf. Going over to their houses, there's dust in the air from those field mouses. I bide my time, I think all is well, but soon as I get there I can tell. And his house was made out of straw, so what do you expect? I had to sneeze and shout, so I blew his house down. And he called me the big bad wolf. He goes running to his brother, and I still follow undercover. I want to say sorry, make my peace, but his house aggravates my allergies. And who makes a house out of twigs anyway? I had to sneeze and shout, so I blew his house down. And they call me the big bad wolf. Two little pigs running forward to the house of the brother on the corner. It's made out of stone, you think I'd be fine, but the story's not done without a third time. And the thing about stone is it doesn't fall down, it just stays there. And at this point, my allergies are just so bad, I just cannot stop sneezing. So you have me in front of this house, sneezing, and three little pigs glaring at me from the front window. Right? And the rest of town comes down because they want to know, what's all the commotion about? What's going on? You know? And they see me in front of this house, sneezing, and the wreckage of two houses behind me, obviously having been from me. Right? Right. 'Cause I sneeze and shout, became the laughing stock of town. And they call me the big